Scott Smith. Scott, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest.
Oh, Neil, I'm great. I'm super excited about our guest. We have Valerie Kenworthy with us today. Hi, Valerie. How are you?
Good, thank you. How about you?
I am just spectacular. You are with Virtual Medical and Business Staffing.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to talk about that today.
Awesome.
Perfect.
A
My
great
favorite.
topic. Okay.
All right. So tell us about your journey. What inspired Virtual Medical and Business Staffing?
Yeah, of course. So, I have been in the medical field for 26 years now. I'm going to age myself a little bit there. And one of the doctors and I had a mobile practice here in the Phoenix metropolitan area. And as we grew out of staff. And as we know, the turnover rate and it's can be very high in uh, any business really. And so basically what we did with our practice is we figured out how to bring the virtuals over and really help them build our medical practice and answering the phones on time and doing just all of the work that I couldn't get to or my team here at the States couldn't get to. We integrated them into our phone systems and then just to our everyday kind of business life. And it really did wonders for our business. We just kind of grew, and that vision combined with this desire to make a meaningful impact just really kind of inspired us to share the joy with all the other businesses that we were connected with.
That's very, very interesting, Scott. And the type of journey that she was on is like every entrepreneur finally figuring out what their secret special talent is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that really is the key, right? Really understanding what you offer and what your talent is and where it lies.
Mm-hmm. It really does help a lot of the businesses, though, and from experience, I can say that it took ours to different levels. And just them being very intricate with our business and doing everything that I couldn't have somebody sit there and do for a long period of time because the turnover rate was just, that revolving door, it felt like all the time. So it
Sure.
really
So why that turnover rate? What do you think the reasons?
this is hard to say sometimes, but when you get into the staffing here, I think in America, just we try to find that next opportunity and that next, what's going to increase our resume, which is great because I think we all do that. I just don't with the Philippines. I've had them with me for 6 to 8 to 9 years. They just stick around and they find something that they're passionate about. They learn it. They do a great job with it. And I've had some of the Filipinos that worked with us in the hospital working on their laptop. And I'm like, please stop doing that. Their work ethic there is just spot on for me, I think.
You know what? This is not about me, but I remember taking work calls after my last child was born from the hospital parking lot.
Yeah.
And I got chastised for that too. So,
Yeah. Well, I do
so
thing we're 24/7 as just any business owner, entrepreneur, or anything that is a 24/7. And I'm very invested in everything that I do. So like you, I'll be everywhere taking calls, but you can't find that everywhere. And
You're
it's
not
just
going to always find that an employee or stat or a subcontractor in so many ways. So who do you serve? You kind of mentioned the name of it, but tell me the type of people you serve.
Yep. So we have served everywhere from the medical practice, is specialty primary care, skilled nursing facilities, all the way to we've done publishing companies, lawyers' offices, realtors, mortgage companies. It's just every spectrum that we can find. We find that talent in the Philippines. Medical is really the number one, just because in the Philippines it's so vast. The medical community there, everybody's a nurse and or a doctor, and we've done dental. So it's everything.
that's interesting. So how have you seen the demand grow? And with that demand, how have you been able to differentiate yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. The way that we differentiate ourselves is we actually have a business in the Philippines that we run. And so we follow all the labor laws in the Philippines, whereas most virtual assistant companies don't do that really. their virtuals, and then the virtuals are expected to pay their own taxes like a 1099 here.
Yeah.
They don't get the benefit of being a W-2 employee. And so we have made sure that we follow all of the rules and regulations that the DOL has, it's called Department of Labor in the Philippines has for them. And I think that's what sets us aside from all the other virtuals. And just the demand for it's grown so exponentially, even in the last 6 years, probably. The rise of the remote work. If COVID taught us one thing, is that we can work remotely and don't have to sit in an office. And so while we reduce the costs of the businesses by 50 to 70% sometimes, we also have that high quality patient care and business care.
Very, very interesting when you talk about this and looking at virtual assistants. And we know, again, Scott also works in that region. It's very hard when you look at, but it looks like some of the places you fill are more of a highly professional level virtual assistant for certain industries that you find in the Philippines, that a lot of companies say, hey, I got you a Philippines VA, that they're not trained to really handle the workload, to
Right.
really do it. They say, yeah, they can do it, but there's so much training involved that it takes away from the business owners' opportunities to really grow.
Exactly. It takes them too much time to do that. So we really discover what that business needs, what is that pain point for them. And then what we do is we vet these virtuals 3-4 different times before we put them in front of the client. So that way they can then determine, yes, this is what I need them to kind of just slide right in with minimal training to help get me off of this task and allow me to do something that needs to have my business grow. So that's what we really try to do. And we put them, if it's in the medical sector, we put them through all the HIPAA training. If it's in the business sector, as well as the medical sector, we really do cybersecurity. We go through and do audits. We have a really great time keeping mechanism that we can measure productivity on. So we really make sure that that virtual is really what that business needs and not just another headache that they have to spend more time away from what they need to do.
So you just hit on about 5 different things that I was, thinking about asking you. So let me come to this one. What would you say then? I mean, data security is a big one. Let's talk about that. So how do you ensure compliance and security protocols are met when you're in a virtual environment?
Yeah, that's another great question. One of the big things that we do is we make sure that they are partitioned out. So if they're using their own computer, we have them sign a little waiver for us that we partition their computer. One side is going to be for their personal stuff, and the other side of that partition is only business. So they'll have different logins for different sides. And then we do audits. So every so often we make sure that nothing gets downloaded onto their computer. We make sure that they're following all the rules and regulations of their client. We make sure that they are using the right VPN equipment if needed. We provide all of that for them. They're not going out and searching for that themselves.
That's important, because the thing, and when you talk, what do you think your area, the name of your company, do you really focus in the medical industry the most, do you think?
That's where we started. And so virtual medical staffing is really kind of the core. But as we've grown over the last, 6 or 7 years, we've really been able to, we have amazing accounting firms as well that we use. And we have virtuals inside of there. And so that's sensitive data too. And we had to make sure that all of that data falls just kind of like a HIPAA compliancy would, that security is being protected for the client. And so we really, I think we take pride in making sure that their system is 100% up to par all the time.
Yeah, that's important. And it's good that you take pride in that organizationally, because that can make or break not only a client's business journey, but their trust.
Exactly.
And it's important that, especially in our world, right, because we kind of cross over in that world together, that we maintain that level of trust. So tell us what advice you would give to a business who's considering using a virtual assistant.
I think some of the advice that I would give is to really just make sure that you are talking and have communication is one of my biggest uh, uh, platforms. It makes or break your relationship. If you can't have a relationship without communication on any level. And so I think my number one piece of advice would be make sure that you are able to contact your representative at any time and get the answers that you need. And here at BMBS, we make sure that you have an account manager that you can pick up the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. If you're on the East Coast, it's 7 or 8 o'clock there. But for the West Coast, where we're located at, it's 3 hours earlier or 2 hours earlier. But we do have those dedicated account representatives that will answer and help you with any questions. We also have a really good IT system. So if there is a problem with the virtual stations, we make sure we get on that right away. And I think those are some of the things that you want to look at. And of course, for me, my second thing is making sure that we take care of our virtuals. And by that, I mean just participating in the benefit program, their paid time off, things like that. And I think that makes a really strong network, and it keeps your VAs with you a long period of time.
And I think that's a very important thing, Scott. And that's one thing that you pride yourself with what you do, Scott, working with outsourcing overseas, is to really find the right partners to help you through the process, being on the ground, really understanding the layout and the land. Compared to a lot of times people are coming, they hire you VA and you're just not going to get that, right, Scott?
That's absolutely true. And it's one of those things that really can put the whole initiative at risk, right? If you don't have the right partner, Neil, you've had experiences like that where you've had some negative experiences in that outsourcing setup. And so I want to just touch base on that, and then I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So, Valerie, what would you say is the most common mistake that businesses make when they try to hire or manage a VA?
I think one of the big mistakes that they can do if they hire a VA is not give them at least a little bit of time to understand your business. Because this VA becomes a part of your team. And so if you just assume that, and I've had this happen before, if you just assume that they know what they're getting into all the time, every business is different. And your business might be exactly the same as my business, like to the T. However, if you don't give them your business mission and vision statement and what your values in that business are, I think that could lead to some disappointment, because then that virtual is going to do what they know how to do, and it might not be what you want them to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Great advice. And I think this is the situation where you have people like Scott and Valerie that really know, their P's and Q's when it comes to this industry. And a lot of times those are the questions to ask. And before you guys go and get a VA, contact Scott, contact Valerie, because they're going to tell you, are you on the right track? Do you have the right plan in place? And are you really having the right infrastructure? Because it could really be scary that you're paying a VA company and then your VA never gets paid or your VA disappears. And that's a big thing that happens in the Philippines. And when it's great to hear your track record where you're keeping them a much longer period of time. And Scott has had such success in India, the same thing. There are horror stories. I have horror stories. Other people have horror stories. Other people are using VAs right now. And the mistake they're making is they're not getting any productivity out of them at all. More messing up productivity, Valerie. So to close, this is why you need to consult people like Scott and yourself when it comes to hiring a VA.
Yes, I agree. And if you guys want to get a hold of me anyways, you can just email me or call us at 480-520-3077. I answer that line all the time, so you'll get me directly. And, my email is valerie@virtualmedicalstaffing.com. I have it up all the time. Our phones are in our hand 24/7. So I always make sure that I answer and follow up as soon as possible.
All right. That was a special simulcast of Neil Haley's show and the Business Spotlight podcast.